Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're really getting into a fascinating life. Tish Ambrose.
Yes, a life full of these really stark contrasts.
Exactly. We're looking at someone who had, serious academic achievements, a very specific kind of professional performance career, but also this really strong personal philosophy running underneath it all.
And we've got quite a mix of sources here, everything from memorial websites that are deeply personal, very emotional,
Right. Yeah.
to detailed career biographies, industry records. So the mission today really is to try and synthesize those two sides. How does the emotional impact she had connect with the documented facts of her career?
Yeah, bringing this together. And you mentioned the emotional side. Let's start there because the tension is immediate.
Yeah.
The memorial site describes her with great inner and outer beauty, someone whose heart was, and this is a quote, stronger than steel.
Wow, that's powerful.
It is. But then right alongside that, descriptions like innocent and thoughtful, quick to forgive and trust, and she apparently had this incredibly infectious laugh.
So, steel and innocence.
Yeah.
It's quite the combination. Hard to square sometimes.
Definitely. It sets up this puzzle.
Well, let's anchor this person. We know she was born Tiffany Clark, January 21st, 1955, in Texas.
Tiffany Clark. Okay.
And she used aliases later. Miss Tish Ambrose, J.T. Ambrose were the main professional ones. But that initial identity, Tiffany Clark, her early life seems pretty, well, conventional.
Right, let's unpack that. Sources say high school, cheerleader, honor roll student.
Exactly. Doing all the things you'd expect from someone, on that kind of track.
Aiming for that sort of traditional success.
And it continued. She went to college, graduated with the BA.
Okay.
And her major was dance. Yeah. So not just a passing interest. This implies years of training, discipline, performance focus.
Yeah, that commitment to performance is key. Because straight after college, she tries to become what the sources call a legitimate actress.
Summer stock viewers.
Summer stock, yeah. So she's really pursuing that traditional stage career path, very focused.
Which makes the turning point, the pivot, even more significant, 1974.
Right. What happened?
She's doing that summer stock up in Maine, and she meets Georgina Spelvin.
The Georgina Spelvin, wow. Famous for The Devil and Miss Jones.
The very one.
Yeah.
A legend in the adult film world. So this is her first real direct encounter with that other universe of performance.
A huge moment, but interestingly, she didn't just jump in.
No, and that's crucial. She meets Spelvin, maybe others from that scene, but she decides not to go into hardcore movies. Not then, anyway.
So there was hesitation. Consideration.
Definitely seems like it. Instead, she gets a job completely different as a hostess in a bar restaurant.
Okay. And this leads to...
This is where she meets David Ambrose, her future husband.
And he plays a role in her career shift.
A big one, according to the sources. He's described as an avid porn lover, someone who really knew the ins and outs of the business.
Okay.
And they say he became the final impetus for her to actually enter the industry.
Final impetus. That's interesting phrasing. Does it suggest pressure or just information and encouragement?
It's a bit ambiguous, but her later statements frame it more as him demystifying it for her, making it seem like a viable path, maybe, supported by his knowledge.
Less scary, perhaps?
Possibly. And look at the timeline. It wasn't overnight. She didn't meet him and sign a contract the next day.
Right. It was gradual.
Very. She gets involved in the live sex show circuit first, around 1978, and then the swinging scene.
So she's sort of immersing herself in the culture first.
Exactly. Testing the waters, maybe understanding the dynamics. It takes until 1981, when she's 26, before she actually makes the leap into hardcore films.
That 4-year period seems important, like preparation, mentally and maybe emotionally.
I think so.
Yeah.
Especially connecting back to that memorial description, that heart stronger than steel. Maybe that period was part of building or confirming that resilience.
And this whole shift, this deliberate, gradual move, it lines up really interestingly with her personal philosophy, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. There's this fantastic quote from her from the early 80s. So she's maybe 28 at this point.
And she said?
She said, before 25, you think life happens to you. As you get older, you realize you create it. You're totally responsible for it.
Wow.
And she followed it up with, we're responsible for our own destiny. Very clear, very empowered.
That completely changes how you might view her career choice. It wasn't something that happened to her. It was something she created.
That seems to be exactly how she saw it. The adult industry wasn't a fall from grace, perhaps, but a stage she chose for her own self-creation.
A vehicle.
Yeah. And she talked about the acting itself being an outlet.
How so?
Well, she said people saw her as demure and real sweet, but the acting let her be crazier, pretty eccentric, and far out sometimes.
So exploring parts of herself that maybe didn't fit the conventional mold.
Precisely. She explicitly linked it to finding herself. The acting was part of her personal journey.
So that background in dance and theater, it wasn't irrelevant. It was training in using performance for expression, just on a different kind of stage.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And on that stage, professionally speaking, she was undeniably successful.
Okay, let's look at the career metrics. Active from 81 until when?
Sources differ slightly, which is common. IMDb suggests she retired in the late 80s. Wikipedia says 1993. But during that active period,
Yeah.
almost 100 films. She worked for the big studios at the time, VCA Pictures, Caballero, names like that. Prolific.
98 films, I think one source said. That's substantial output. And she got awards, right? Recognition.
Oh, yeah. Major recognition. In 1984, she won the XRCO Award for Best Actress.
XRCO, that's the X-Rated Critics Organization.
That's the one. So, judged on artistic merit, on performance quality by the critics, the film was Every Woman Has a Fantasy.
So early career validation from critics, that's significant.
Very. And it wasn't just critics. Later on, 1988, she won an AVN Award.
The industry's main awards.
Right. Best Supporting Actress for Firestorm 2. And she was actually nominated for Best Actress the same year for Lilith Unleashed.
So recognition from both critics and the commercial side of the industry, that shows range, respect, mastery maybe?
I think mastery fits. She clearly excelled within the framework she'd chosen for herself, this path of self-discovery through performance.
Let's add a couple of final details. Physically, she was listed as 5'6¼
Yep, about 1.68 meters, green eyes, light brown hair.
and her marriage to David Ambrose, the final impetus.
That ended. They divorced sometime in the late 1980s.
Which, if you filter that through her philosophy of creating your own destiny...
It becomes another choice, another act of self-creation, perhaps. Dealing with the consequences or evolution of the path she took, it adds another layer.
Absolutely. It feels like her whole life story is this testament to conscious choice.
It really does. Starting as Tiffany Clark, the cheerleader, the aspiring stage actress, and deliberately transforming into Tish Ambrose, the performer who used her work to explore, as she put it, her eccentric side.
So looking back at everything, we see this really compelling mix. You've got the conventional background, then success in a field many see as anything but conventional.
Right.
And holding it all together is this constant thread of focusing on inner character, being honest, being real, giving love, being resilient, that heart of steel alongside the quick to forgive part.
It makes you see the whole journey, from the high school honor roll to the adult film awards, as this deliberate performance of self. A woman building her own destiny, her own way.
It really makes you think about intention, doesn't it? Especially when life takes turns that look unconventional from the outside.
It does. And that brings us to a final thought, really, for you listening. Tish Ambrose strongly believed we are totally responsible for creating our lives. She used acting to be far out, to explore beyond the expected.
Right.
So the question becomes, when you look at your own life, especially the parts that might seem eccentric or off the beaten path, how much of that is truly you discovering yourself, creating your own authentic expression? And how much might just be, well, playing a role you felt you had to adopt? It's about who's really writing your script.